Hey, my name is Josh Rosenthal from C-Level Insights, clevelinsights.com, the DSB podcast on Apple Podcasts. We're talking about how to diagnose your problem. Before we can really fix it, obviously we can't fix something we don't understand. And so we're going to understand your cash problem by looking at the financials. We've looked at the profit and loss, seeing is profitability your problem. Counterintuitively, profitability is not always your problem. You might think if I'm profitable, I should be okay. And if I'm not profitable, I will not be okay. There are scenarios where you're not profitable, but that's because of things like depreciation and interest. Add those back in, and maybe at this point, you have some profitability. Either way, that doesn't always equate to cash, having a necessary amount of cash. So how do we understand your cash situation? Well, we move over to the balance sheet and we look at a current ratio and an acid test ratio. And those two things are just ways of sort of a quick test, or really easy formulas to knock out that says, hey, you've got too much cash in the bank, or you have not enough cash in the bank and it's because of this or this. That helps us with that, the current ratio or the acid test ratio. But let's say that everything's intact on your profit and loss and you're profitable. So we haven't found the problem. We haven't found it on the balance sheet. Well, we look to the statement of cash flows because ultimately we're concerned with cash. So the statement of cash flows helps us find where the precise problem is. So if I'm looking at your statement of cash flows, again, assuming you keep good books, you have to keep good books or you're going to become bankrupt or fail or miss payroll and never see it coming. So we're going to look at the statement of cash flows here. And we start at the top looking at net income. So let's assume you have some profitability here. So on a course of a year, you had $100,000 in profit. Good job, maybe. It depends on your industry. If you had $100,000 off $200,000, maybe that's amazing. If you're in food and beverage, that's impossible. If you're in consulting, it's possible. Maybe $100,000 off of $1 million would be a really great job in the restaurant business. I think maybe $100,000 in the restaurant business might mean $2 million in revenue. So let's say you've got the money coming in here. The problem that most people run into that you don't understand is that they don't understand is that if you're profitable on your profit and loss, you have money coming in after you take out your variable cost, your fixed cost, there is a surplus of cash at the bottom. When you go over to your statement of cash flows, you can see that there's still stuff that you have to do with that money. Things that you have to do with that money, most importantly, is servicing debt. This is what trips most people up. This is why a majority of businesses that fail are profitable. They just run out of cash. It's usually because the debt load is too heavy. So if I look over here and see that you're carrying a pretty massive debt load, and that when you make your debt payment, that, on average that year, it was $120,000, $10,000 a month that you're paying in debt. That's not an uncommon debt load for a small business. And you only had a surplus of cash to work with at $100,000. So now you're profitable. And here's the really hard news in this is that on this, you will be taxed. So on your net income, you're taxed. So if you have that $100,000, let's say you owe $25,000 in taxes on that. Where that hurts is that you have debt of $120,000 that year on it, and so you have negative $20,000 for the year. You now also have to layer in that debt, and you have to somehow come up with $45,000 because just because you don't have cash flow doesn't mean that you still don't owe money on your net income. So by and large, your issue, if we haven't found it clearly on the profit and loss, meaning you're profitable still, we jump over to the statement of cash flows and we can see that your issue is probably going to be your debt. You owe money. Many businesses function just fine in this space because now there's another layer to this. So if we have this first layer up here where we look at net income, and we have all this debt service happening here, what happens below is how you bring on financing. So being negative in cash flow is not the end of the world. In fact, it should be a part of your business plan if you understand your market well. So the question is how do you solve for that negative cash flow? What is your plan? How are you bringing in money? If out of the gates in year one you knew you were going to be $40,000 negative, hopefully we look on your balance sheet and see those ratios and say, oh, you're still good with cash, even though cash flow is getting obliterated, even though you're not profitable, your balance sheet says that you're going to be okay because you planned for it. So this whole category helps you understand how you're bringing in money to offset this loss up here. So let's say this year you brought in an additional $100,000 one way or another, which I'm going to have a video about where that 100 could come from. Then at the bottom, the most important number, the number that C-Level Insights is most concerned about for you, is your net cash increase or decrease. And then let's say if this is your scenario here, that you truly did $45,000 negative, you brought in $100,000 in financing, you are actually plus 55 on the year. Is it long-term sustainable? Probably not. There are some industries that are never concerned with profitability. Tech industry seems to somehow get away with years and high valuations with no possible profit on the horizon. For you, I'm most concerned, almost exclusively concerned with this, because this means the dream stays alive. If you do 55,000 plus that year, the cash is still in the bank, you're meeting payroll, you're paying rent, the dream is alive, and you can still have a way forward to keep your business going. My name is Josh Rosenthal from C-Level Insights, clevelinsights.com. Comment below on ways that you've brought in financing. How have you solved for your negative cash flow through smart financing, through seeing it in advance? We'll see you next time when we start to talk about ways of bringing in that money.